right now, where about 942 billion naira is being earmarked for a census in Nigeria. But the president says, hold on. I think it would be cheaper if we use NYSC members. Why don't we use COM members to conduct this census so that it reduces the cost? So, talking about this today, we have Sam Orovwuje, who is a public and international affairs analyst this morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Blessing. My pleasure.
So, if we say, how many Nigerians are there? What's the size of our population? It's still estimation. We don't know for sure. But it seems like the National Population Commission is ready this time around. But the challenge is around the figure for it. That has been part of the trouble for quite some time now, the money to conduct the census.
Thank you very much indeed. I think for me, from 1866, where the colonial people started counting Nigerians, particularly the colony of Lagos, census is always a very controversial issue in development. So if you're looking at about 1 trillion being a mark to do another census, I don't think personally that figure is outrageous. If you extrapolate the figure that was used for the last count vis-a-vis the current value for money, I think that money, in my personal view, is not too much. And even when you're proposing that the National Youth Corps member can be used, that's just a fragment in terms of enumeration. And the other element in the census, you talk about housing census, talk about people's census. So the enumeration is far beyond the personnel. The other elements, and I'm sure digital tools will equally be used, and I think they've taken cognizance of that to arrive at this 900 and something billion that you spoke to. But population itself, if you look at the historiography of population, 1866 to 1917, when the amalgamation took place, where you had a combined census, up to the contentious 1951-53 census, to 63 to 73, there's always a controversy. So if we look at the politics of it, then this issue of money that is much to do the counting, in my view, is more political than the actual benefit from the point of view of demography.
Looking at this crisis around census, who is afraid to be counted? Really? Who is afraid of an accurate figure in Nigeria?
The issue, the population has become a major issue in terms of elections, in terms of revenue sharing formula. So if you look at what happened in the 1951-53 census, which was very contentious, where people accused certain people of counting animals and all that to make up a population figure. So that controversy, people are worried that if you get the actual figure right, politically, it might affect certain segment of the society. So, and that's why the controversy in terms of, if you look at Festus Odumegu's figure, why we couldn't fly with that, look at this current figure, it's far higher than what Odumegu proposed and people criticize it. So, in my view, I'm thinking the politics of it, some people feel that if we really have actual remuneration to affect the access to the national treasury in terms of what comes to local government, to state. And those are some of the dynamics of population in Nigeria. And the politics of it, even from the colonial time to the present day, is one of the reasons even Lagos State government contested one of those elections that does not represent the true figure of those who reside in Lagos. So it's more of controversy in my view.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I would like to look at it from a position whereby Nigeria, when I was asking the question, like 228 million. Democratic Republic of the Congo is 115 million. then Ethiopia 109 million. So I want to okay, what's the advantage of having a populated country? The economic advantage or the developmental advantage, the business advantage. Now, what gives us away as the most populated country in Africa, and what sort of economic benefits do we have for it?
No, the number, one of the dominant factor why you need to count houses, count people, is for planning. Once you have an accurate census or population, they are able to plan appropriately in terms of disaggregated figures of those who are the youthful population, the elderly. So in terms of planning, you're able to plan adequately, even for educational planning, all kinds of planning regime. Population will help government to be able to decide where do we put investment, what kind of population that require XYZ investment. So it's important that you're able to determine your economic fortune if you know the actual population. So for example, you want to invest in primary health care. What is the number of women in childbearing? So you'll be able to plan adequately for them in a way that it will affect national development and productivity as well. So it's an essential ingredient of planning, and it's very important that we need to know our numbers.
All right, so the president doesn't have any problem with the conducting of a census, but he has issues with the budget given the financial reality Nigeria currently has. And so he's setting up a committee and asked that they reassess the budget and align with the nation's current financial reality. He's also asking for the integration of the National Identity Management Commission in the census process so that there can be biometrics done, facial recognition, voice recognition as well to minimize duplication. So there seems to be that trust deficit, which you have given reasons for, and also backtracking that it stems from, it comes from a long time, it's not even starting now. But if we're having all of these challenges towards having census, what is the chance that eventually we would have a census? Why does it become very expensive? We understand that there will be deployment of technology, but if we already have the National Identity Management Commission, which the president is suggesting integration of that into the census, should it not make it cheaper for us to be able to have the census? Many Nigerians already have the national identity number and the card as well.
But I think the National Population Commission, for them to come with that kind of budget, they will have done some kind of level of budgeting based on all the various elements in terms of how the houses will be counted, how the people will be counted. Deployment of digital technology for counting has already been put in place by the Population Commission to that effect. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's better to integrate all the other elements that will make the viability and the reliability of the results in terms of counting appropriate. Maybe when they deploy the Data Management Commission elements into it, maybe the budget might reduce to some extent. But beyond that, there's a politics or there's a political consideration anytime people bring figures. So if you compare the figure of the National Population Commission vis-a-vis that of INEC in terms of election, what is spent for election and the money spent for a reliable population figure, I think in terms of decision making, effort should be placed more on seeing the actual population, because the figure that we're using as an estimate, I'm sure that we have grown beyond those elements. So we have issues in terms of planning with those figures that we're using, 200 and something estimate. And if you look at the population trend globally, we're estimated to grow at XYZ figure by the year 2030. So if you put all those things into consideration, I think the government should make a decision in terms of actually counting people. And like a doctor mentioned earlier, who is afraid of counting people?
Okay, as a follow-up to that, you mentioned the estimation. So this estimation, a lot of times are done by World Bank or other development partners or multilateral institutions. How do you think they're able to do this? Does it cost them so much to even do the estimation? Are there ways of generating data that they're exploring that perhaps such methods are not open or available to the National Population Commission?
No, they are not doing anything extraordinary. They're just doing what we call extrapolation based on the data that we currently have. So do a projection using some other statistical data to arrive at the figure. So it's not that they are conducting census for us. They are using our data. You just extrapolate those data and just say, okay, if this was a count XYZ, this is the current distance. So they are not doing anything extraordinary. They are using our own figure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, what had been used from the baseline that was done in 2006. So we've been using 3.3% population growth annually. So every year we multiply the 160 million people by 3.3%, and then it gives you a new figure. Now, but talking about cost elements in this figure, when we say 900 billion, it looks very big, and that's about $600 million that you are looking at in terms of counting people. Now, we also need to put on the ground that, for example, if you are going to recruit people who are going to do the enumeration and numbering, actual numbering, of course, you're going to pay them. There's a whole lot of expenditure that has already gone into this whole process in terms of the delimitations that have been done for the enumerators who have gone around. Drones were purchased, tabs were purchased to enable for fingerprinting and the rest of them. But I think it's to even do overall assessment first and foremost, if those equipment are still on hand, or would this budget still be buying those repeated equipment that was bought or purchased in 2023? Or is there a place that we can also find local solutions from local computer manufacturer who can make things really simple for us? And then also the place of volunteerism in helping to actualize this enumeration process.
No, I think for me, I think I focus more on the politics of it. Let's not shy away from those elements where we always talk about figure when it comes to enumeration for counting houses and counting people. And I made an example earlier where I talked about elections, how much is spent on election vis-a-vis a more important element that actualize your development purpose and planning purposes. And we just talk about the figure like you alluded to a little while ago. You had drones purchased. You have people on ground who are going to be the enumerator moving from one house to the other. You have the digital deployment and all that. By the time you put all those things together, 900 and something billion, in my view, is not a big figure. And mind you, there are other international agencies that are in support of the population counting mechanism. So we're going to get some funding from the international agencies towards counting of people. I recall that towards the end of my service here, I partook in one of the census, and even as copper, who were earning some little fraction of money at that particular point in time, were giving money for doing those enumeration.
How much did you earn?
I can't recall, but I know as a copper I was earning 200 naira, but I think they paid us for that census something 450 naira in bulk, and we went to town celebrating. So,
okay, so let's hope that let's hope that with the president's recommendation to use or suggestion to use core members, that will bring down the cost. And then with the committee set up to reassess the budget, maybe they may find one or two elements to take out that can be done locally or sourced locally to reduce the cost. The president has also asked for alternative funding if they're able to find that before seeking support from international development partners. So let's hope that all of this is achieved. The last time census was conducted in Nigeria is 2006. If you count down, that's about 19 years. It's a long time for a country to be without a census. Thank you very much, Sam Orovwuje, who is a public and international affairs analyst, for your time with us on the show today.
Thank you.
You join us to do this again tomorrow, 7 a.m. West African time. If you haven't discovered whatever talent that you have, maybe it's time for you to heed the words of Chuks John Rogers. Maybe you can run, maybe you can jump, maybe you can have sports in your mind like me. Well, let's look for a tournament where that happens so that we can all make some money. I'm Blessing Eichie. I have been doing this today with two partners. One is Dr. Idahosa Osamhanze and the other is Oyinpreye Krumale. From Doctor.
Nice to know that you're there. We'll be here tomorrow again to do the same, God willing.
Yeah, what's on my mind is that $200,000 post-retirement for athletes. Nigeria should emulate that. We should. Thank you for watching.